Yeah, so I've trained in, I guess it would be considered psychedelic assisted or cannabis assisted psychedelic therapy. So I trained in Boulder, Colorado with the Center for Medicinal Mindfulness. And what they do is, yeah, they essentially they they use cannabis as a psychedelic. It's not similar to a psychedelic. It's not kind of like a psychedelic. It's you're creating a container, you're creating an intention, you're having a very mindfulness based approach and like a somatic based approach. It's a bit of a skill set and a practice as well. And so in a lot of ways, the way I like to explain it is the cannabis is sort of like an adjunct. Like people can show up and do the circles with us and not even imbibe, and they have a really big experience on their own without the cannabis. But then you add the cannabis to it, of course, you're gonna then start having a little bit more of a somatic experience, so it can really increase the awareness of the body, can help to sort of almost create this like alchemy of like the energy in the body, like grounding it and kind of moving through things. And it helps to bring up, kind of like any other psychedelic, it helps to bring up things that are ready to be coming to the surface to process and to complete. So some people, they'll have big emotions show up. Some people, they'll really deeply connect to their deeper core self and kind of like play in that space a little bit. But it's very much a stillness practice with cannabis. And it's really great for releasing the fascia too. So the trauma and the stress that's held in the fascia. So some people, they'll sort of shake. So you're working with like the physical attributes of cannabis and like the anti-inflammatory aspects of it, but then you're also working mindfully with the sort of transpersonal or the psychedelic aspects of it, and really with the intention and with the practice doing really deep work. Like sometimes I see people having these profound experiences and they think like afterwards they're like, that was just cannabis. Yeah. We teach people how to make mixes and stuff or using their favorite strain. So why cannabis? A, because it's legal. B, it's very integrative. So a lot of times, of course, integration's needed after these circles, but it's like you're not going to that huge top of the mountain and then finding like, what the hell am I doing afterwards, right? It's quite integrative, and it can also actually help integrate other medicine experiences because it's just so like right there and really connected to the body. And the last thing that's really good about it that I'll mention is there's this ongoing consent process where you don't go where you don't want to go. And so cannabis will sort of like really soften those edges for people, and they can go into these spaces with a lot of like titration and a lot of consent, which is sort of different than other medicines, for better or worse. Sometimes it's good to be like brought to a thing and be shown and like, you're going to do this. But with cannabis, I find, especially with trauma, it can be a really good way of sort of like dipping the toe in and kind of feeling that safety. Um, and it's just really good for building skills in other medicines as well, like mindfulness and breathing and body awareness, and play. Play as a skill is really great and important, I think, in this work as well. And I've seen, yeah, a lot of people just have their minds blown by it, like they can't believe that it's cannabis. A lot of people, they'll get off their medications slowly over time after with working with it. They find a lot of people, they find that they start to relate to their symptoms in a different way. So they start to move towards their anxiety, for example, because they start to realize like, oh, I've been putting this anxiety sort of like over here and making a monster out of it. But I realize now in the cannabis session, I can move towards it and I can experience it and not get too in my head about it. And then that translates into real life. Like people get to then be like, oh yeah, I can move towards this thing. And I know that it's going to have a peak and it's going to release and it's going to let go. Right. So lots of really cool stuff I've been seeing from it. I've been doing circles for a couple of years now with it. A lot of it is, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and in groups, of course, like sometimes it depends on groups. If people are, we will screen people. And then, yeah, some people that just need to find a new relationship with cannabis. So whether they had a bad experience and they're kind of like, I think this could be good, but I'm like, I get anxious on it. So then I'll work with people really slowly and, bring some CBD or just teach them how to titrate and just take, little bits at a time. And then some people, they just want to have, yeah, like a profound connection to themselves. They want to creatively problem solve through something. They want to connect to their body in a new way. And either way, whether someone's like using it a little bit more than they need to every day, or someone who doesn't use it at all, I've pretty much seen the same outcome. Like people just are blown away. Like daily users, I'll work with them and then they're like, I can't believe that this is available and I've never tapped into it in this way. So it really speaks to the container and the set and setting and the intention and how powerful that whole gestalt can be with a medicine. Yeah. So there's sort of three levels to it. First, you learn how to sit. Then there's sort of like a guiding one, and it's yeah, it's really good because you're going into the medicine sort of like right away. Like a lot of the training's quite experiential, and yeah, you're learning sort of transpersonal maps and how to navigate that, and doing your own work, and then learning about cannabis, and really it's translatable. It's things that you learn to then work with other medicines if you're called to.